My ex-husband is forcing me to take a paternity test just because our daughter has curly dark hair. We both have straight light hair. My ex-husband and I have 3 children. It was a difficult split as he left while I was pregnant with our twins, and he tried to make everything as difficult as possible. He and his wife are wanting me to do a paternity test on the children as they are disputing that our youngest is his and he no longer wants to pay child support for her. Him wanting to reduce his child support has been an ongoing issue. For the last 5 years, he hasn't had a problem regarding the paternity of any of our children. He's now stating that he doesn't think that our daughter is his and that I have cheated because she doesn't look like him. She doesn't look much like me either. She's got green eyes like I do. Both of us are pale with light-colored hair and eyes. Our daughter has dark hair that is thick and curly. She looks mixed race, and she's the only one who looks this way. Her twin brother looks like my ex-husband. My daughter looks like my grandmother who was mixed race and was white passing. I'll be honest that me and his wife do not get along. I mean, it is hard to get along with the woman who your husband left you for. She keeps trying to shove herself in my children's lives and acting like their mom. She keeps insisting that she's mama, and they should refer to her as that. They have refused to call her that, which always ends at my ex calling me frustrated that the children won't give her respect. She's recently been pointing out that my youngest looks darker than her siblings and has been suggesting that my youngest isn't my ex-husband's. I'm close with my former ex's brother's wife, and she told me before my ex did that he wanted a paternity test and was going to stop paying child support for her. She's also said that ex and his wife are once again having money issues. This was something I had already suspected, as he had stopped taking them on his weekends as he was having to work overtime. Before people tell me to document this, I have everything documented. I refuse to answer calls from him, which forces him to either text or email me so that I can keep conversation records, as I don't trust him. After I found out about him wanting a paternity test, I told him that I wasn't going to consent to him doing a paternity test on the children, and the only way he was getting one is if he took me to court. He told me that it was clear our daughter wasn't his and that she didn't look like her siblings. He argued that he couldn't afford court and I was holding his money hostage by forcing him to pay for a child who isn't his. He has now apparently been whining about me on Facebook about how I cheated on him and am forcing him to raise another man's child and forced him to sign the birth certificate. I didn't. He wasn't even there, but as we were still married, I could put him on without him being there. I don't follow him. I had one of his friends try and confront me about it. I want my children to have a relationship with their dad, and I feel like this is stopping them. Though on the other hand, I know there will be something else he, or his wife, takes issue with down the line. Am I the a-hole for refusing to do a paternity test? Edit. I thought I'd put this in my post, but I didn't. Really should have proofread this rather than posting in anger. My ex wants me to pay for the paternity test. He doesn't want it because of his financial situation, which is why I told him to take it to court and get a court-mandated one. I know if I was to pay for it, then he would want another one because he'll think that I tampered with it as I paid for it. He did the same with when I had the house valued, so I could give him half. He didn't like what the first person valued it at, so had to get another. I know I haven't cheated on him, and she is his. I know some didn't like me referring to her as my youngest. Both her and her brother don't like being referred to as twins or as one, so I don't refer to them as such. Since they were toddlers, they have been very independent from each other and want to be treated as such. She is not my only daughter. My eldest is also a girl. Update 1. So I did not expect so many comments on my last post. After I posted in my frustration over the paternity test situation, my ex-husband, we'll call him Jim, and his wife kept trying to get me to consent to and pay for the paternity test. I refused to pay because I know Jim. When the result isn't what he wants, he will accuse me of tampering with the results. When I kept saying no, they ran to whoever would listen, complaining about me and how I was forcing them to pay for a child that wasn't Jim's. For those who may not have read my last post, the child is questioned is my youngest daughter and a twin. Jim does not contest that her twin brother is his. But apparently, along with being a bitch over this, I'm also a cat. News to me. Honestly didn't think he was that much of an idiot, but here we are. Jim kept complaining to his dad, Mick, and brother about me and how I was being financially abusive by taking money from him for a child that wasn't his and refusing to pay for the paternity test. Now Mick and I get on very well. He adores his grandchildren, they also adore him, and I have never attempted to stop them having a relationship, unlike Jim, who often attempts to weaponize the children. I get very well with Jim's family and we are close. His his brother's wife, and I are very close. She's the sister I never had, only child problems. Mick asked if he was to pay for a paternity test, if I would allow it to happen. Mick explained that he wasn't accusing me of anything, but he was fed up of seeing Jim and his wife drag me every chance they got. He understood why I was refusing and agreed with me. I agreed but stated that Jim should choose the company that the paternity test is done through, and I didn't want to know which one was chosen. That way I wasn't involved. So we had the paternity test. Mick paid for all 3 children to be tested, and had them tested with the private company Jim chose and then a private company Mick's lawyer recommended. Mick explained he did this so that if Jim started arguing against the results, calling them fake, then Mick had another set to back them up. And what do you know? All 3 children are Jim's. Since we've gotten the results, Jim has tried arguing that they're wrong, and that youngest definitely isn't his. He has also been taking to Facebook to complain about me and is threatening to take me to court for fraud. The man couldn't afford to pay for a paternity test. He definitely can't afford a lawyer to take me to court, but I'd like to see him try. Former SIL has been screenshotting some of his comments and sending them over to me, which we've been having a giggle over, especially since one of the things Jim has whining about is finding out I've been dating a former friend of his. I say former because he, along with some others, were cut out by Jim's wife. Jim's upset because I am alienating him from the children by dating someone new, coming from the man who left me when I was pregnant for his now wife, who keeps trying to insist she is mama to my children. My children only met my boyfriend for the first time this weekend, after we had been dating for a year. Before people jump to Jim's defense and claim I am alienating him, I've never stopped him seeing or communicating with the children. He's the one that decides when he's interested in being their dad. So yeah, unsurprisingly, my children are Jim's. Jim's still an idiot. The children are happy as they're off to have a sleepover at their granddad's with cousins, while I get to have wine and spend the evening catching up with former SIL. Jim and his wife are still mouthing off on social media, but it's falling on deaf ears for the most part. Update 2. So here we are again. I didn't think I'd be posting another update so soon, but Jim's antics have reached new heights of absurdity. Right after the paternity test results came in, proving once again that all 3 children are his, Jim's wife, let's call her Karen because, well, it fits, went on a tirade. She's been relentless, claiming that I somehow manipulated both paternity tests and even suggesting that I bribed the companies involved. It would be laughable if it weren't so exhausting. Mick, my ex-father-in-law, has been a rock through all this. He's been taking the kids on weekends, giving me a much-needed break and the kids some stability. They adore him, and he's been nothing but supportive. We had a long chat the other day about Jim and Karen's behavior. Mick is as fed up as I am and is seriously considering stepping in legally to ensure the kids' well-being. He mentioned talking to his lawyer about getting some sort of custodial rights or at least more formal visitation arrangements. At this point, I'm open to anything that helps keep the peace. Now, onto the latest drama. Jim has decided to play the victim card even harder. He's been posting on social media, claiming that I'm turning the kids against him and that I've been poisoning them against their new family, i.e., Karen and whatever pets they've added to the chaos. He even went so far as to show up at the kids' school, unannounced, trying to take them out early without notifying me. Thankfully, the school called me right away. I had already informed them about the ongoing situation, so they were on high alert. Jim caused a scene, yelling at the principal and claiming he had every right to take his kids. It was embarrassing and upsetting for the children, but they handled it like champs. In the midst of all this, my boyfriend, let's call him Tom, has been a pillar of support. Tom and I have been getting closer, and he's been great with the kids. He's careful not to overstep, respecting that Jim is their father despite his flaws. We had a family day out last weekend, just the 5 of us, and it was the first time in a while I felt a sense of normalcy. The kids love Tom and appreciate his laid-back, fun approach. Jim, of course, heard about this and threw another fit, claiming I was trying to replace him. The irony is almost too much to handle. Meanwhile, Karen has been pushing for another round of tests, this time suggesting a lie detector test for me to prove I haven't cheated. The sheer audacity is mind-boggling. I'm considering just ignoring them, but part of me wants to see how far they're willing to go. It's like they're living in some twisted soap opera. Amidst all the chaos, my lawyer has been fantastic. She's been helping me keep all communications documented and is preparing to file for a modification of the custody arrangement. Jim's erratic behavior is starting to worry me more, and I need to ensure the kids are protected. We're gathering all the evidence, his social media rants, school incident reports, and messages from Karen. It's a lot, but it needs to be done. To top it all off, Jim's financial woes are getting worse. He's missed another child support payment, claiming he's broke. I don't want to be petty, but I couldn't help but remind him that court-ordered payments aren't optional. He then accused me of driving him to financial ruin by demanding what's legally owed. It's a never-ending cycle of blame and deflection with him. The kids, bless their hearts, are trying to stay out of the drama. They've been resilient and remarkably mature about the situation. My eldest, who's 12 now, has been helping her younger siblings cope. She's been a little rock, though I make sure she knows she doesn't have to shoulder that burden. We've had some deep conversations about family, loyalty, and what it means to be there for each other. It's heartbreaking and heartwarming all at once. As for my former SIL, she continues to be my lifeline. We've been planning more joint family activities to keep the kids engaged and away from the negativity. We took them all to the zoo last weekend, and it was a blast. Watching them interact with their cousins, laughing and just being kids, was a reminder of what really matters. So, here we are, navigating the chaos as best we can. Jim and Karen's antics aren't likely to stop anytime soon, but we're building a life that doesn't revolve around their drama. The future's uncertain, but I'm hopeful. My kids are my priority, and with the support of my friends, family, and Tom, I know we'll get through this. Update 3. As expected, Jim and Karen's antics didn't stop. If anything, they've escalated. After Jim's disastrous attempt to take the kids out of school early, he and Karen have been trying different tactics to undermine me and create chaos. Jim showed up at my house last week, unannounced and demanding to see the kids. I didn't let him in, of course. We had a heated exchange on the doorstep, with him accusing me of alienating the children from him. I reminded him that his behavior is what's causing the rift, not anything I've done. He stormed off, shouting that he'd see me in court. It would be funny if it wasn't so disruptive. The next day, I got a call from my lawyer. Jim had, in fact, filed a petition for custody modification. He's claiming I'm unfit to care for the kids and that he's the better parent. The grounds for his petition are laughable. He cited my inability to co-parent and alienation of the children's affections. My lawyer and I had a good chuckle over the absurdity of it, but it's still a serious matter that needs to be addressed. We're preparing our response, and I've got a mountain of evidence to counter his claims, including witness statements from Mick and my former SIL, school records, and even the children's own words, as much as I hate dragging them into this. Meanwhile, Karen has been ramping up her campaign on social media. She's posting nonstop about what a victim Jim is and how I'm this evil ex-wife who's out to ruin their lives. It's almost comical, but also incredibly frustrating. The comments section is a mix of their friends sympathizing with them and random strangers calling out their ridiculousness. I've decided not to engage online. It's not worth my time or energy. Tom has been my rock through all this. He's been helping with the kids, running errands, and just being there when I need to vent. We had a long talk about our future and how he fits into the children's lives. He's been so patient and understanding, never pushing or trying to take on a father role prematurely. The kids adore him, and it's clear he's becoming an important part of our family. Jim's accusations about Tom alienating him from the kids are baseless, and I've made sure to document everything to show that Tom has only been a positive influence. One bright spot in all this chaos has been my eldest daughter's birthday. She turned 13 last weekend, and we threw her a big party. I was a bit worried that Jim would try to crash it, but thankfully, he stayed away. It was a wonderful day filled with friends, family, and lots of laughter. Seeing her so happy and surrounded by love reminded me why I keep fighting. My kids deserve the best, and I'll do whatever it takes to ensure they get it. As for Mick, he's been a true ally. He sat Jim down and tried to knock some sense into him, but it didn't go well. Jim accused Mick of taking my side and betraying him. Mick was furious but kept his cool, telling Jim that his actions are hurting the children more than anyone else. I'm grateful to have Mick in our corner, and he's been a stabilizing force for the kids during this tumultuous time. The court date for the custody hearing is set for next month. I'm nervous but confident. I have plenty of evidence to show that I'm a fit mother and that Jim's claims are unfounded. My lawyer is fantastic, and I know she'll fight tooth and nail for us. I'm also prepared for the possibility that Jim and Karen will pull more stunts leading up to the hearing. We're ready for anything at this point. In the meantime, I'm focusing on keeping things as normal as possible for the kids. We've been doing more family activities, hiking, movie nights, and even a weekend getaway to a cabin in the woods. The kids loved it, and it was a much-needed break from the drama. They're resilient, but I can see the toll this is taking on them. I've been honest with them about the situation in an age-appropriate way, and we've been having a lot of heart-to-heart talks. They know I'm fighting for them, and that's what keeps me going. Former SIL and I have been planning a big family barbecue for next month. It's going to be a great way to bring everyone together and remind the kids that they're surrounded by people who love and support them. We've also talked about starting a support group for parents dealing with toxic exes. It's something that could be really beneficial, not just for us, but for others going through similar situations. Update 4. I didn't expect to be back with another update, but here we are. This journey has been a roller coaster, and it feels surreal to finally be at a point where I can say things are starting to settle down. Here's what's happened since my last post. The court date for the custody hearing finally arrived. I was nervous, but I went in prepared, armed with evidence and a fierce determination to protect my children. My lawyer was fantastic, presenting a solid case that highlighted Jim's erratic behavior, his financial irresponsibility, and his attempts to alienate the kids from me. We had character witnesses lined up, including Mick and my former SIL, who spoke on my behalf and provided a clear picture of the stable, loving environment I provide for my children. Jim and Karen, on the other hand, were a mess. Jim's accusations were baseless and inconsistent, and Karen's social media rants were brought up as evidence of their ongoing harassment and manipulation. At one point, Jim tried to claim that I was influencing Mick and the rest of his family against him, which Mick shut down immediately. Mick's testimony was particularly powerful, as he expressed his deep concern for the children's well-being and made it clear that he believed they were best off with me. The judge saw through Jim's antics. After hearing all the evidence, the judge ruled in my favor, maintaining the current custody arrangement and dismissing Jim's petition. Additionally, the judge ordered Jim to undergo a parenting class and counseling sessions to address his behavior and its impact on the children. There was also a stern warning about his social media behavior and how it affects our children. Walking out of that courtroom was one of the most liberating moments of my life. The weight of uncertainty and stress lifted, and I felt a renewed sense of hope for the future. The kids were ecstatic when I told them the news. It's heartbreaking that they had to go through this, but they've been incredibly resilient. Since the hearing, things have been relatively calm. Jim and Karen have been quieter, likely due to the court's warning and the realization that their tactics aren't working. Jim has started attending his mandated parenting classes and counseling sessions, and though I doubt a miraculous change, I hope he takes it seriously for the kids' sake. Tom and I have grown even closer through all this. He's been my rock, and the kids adore him. We've talked about our future together, and while we're taking things one step at a time, we both see a long-term future. He's been a steady, positive presence in our lives, and I'm grateful every day for his support. The kids are doing great. They've adjusted well, and we've been focusing on creating happy memories together. We've continued our family activities, and the big barbecue we had planned was a huge success. It was a day filled with laughter, good food, and the kind of joy that makes all the hard times worth it. Seeing the kids run around with their cousins, carefree and happy, was the best reward I could ask for. Mick has remained a close ally and an involved grandfather. We've worked out a more formal visitation schedule that ensures he gets plenty of time with the kids. He's even talked about taking them on a summer trip next year, something they're already excited about. As for Karen, well, she's still Karen. Her social media presence has toned down, but I know she's still fuming. I've decided to ignore her as much as possible. Engaging with her only fuels the drama, and I refuse to give her that power. My focus is on my children and our future. One surprising development is that Jim's former friends, the ones cut out by Karen, have started reaching out to me. They've expressed their support and shared their own frustrations with Jim and Karen's behavior. It's been eye-opening and somewhat vindicating to hear that others see through their facade. We've even reconnected with a few old friends, expanding our support network even further.